And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Well, hello and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks News Pack for Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As it's CHL, specifically WHL Trade Deadline today. Lots has happened. We've got the Flames in action. We've got the Canucks in action. Flames in what Milan Lucic has called the most important road trip of the year. Here, a part of that is they're in the second of their 5-game road trip. The Canucks are in Pittsburgh facing Jim Rutherford's old team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, as well as Patrick Allvin. So we'll talk about that. We'll start with the WHL, though, because as I mentioned, it is trade deadline today, and there's been a number of trades that have happened here. Going through the list here, feels like just feels like a massive amount of change going on in the WHL. Of course, the big trade happened on the weekend. It was Owen Zellweger and Kelly Hofer, and Hofer heading to the from the Everett Silvertips to the Kamloops Blazers for what turned out to be about 10 draft picks, 5 players, 11 draft picks, 5 players there. So just a lot of other trades here going on as there's a lot of draft picks being traded here. Some of the bigger trades. Jake Chason was acquired from the Brandon Wheat Kings for a first-round pick of 2023, a second-round pick of 2025, and 2026, which is conditional. Nolan Flamin was acquired from the Kelowna Rockets for Trey Johnson, a third-round pick and a fifth round in 2023, fifth-round pick in 2024. And Dawson Pasternak went from Portland to Brandon and a fourth-round pick for Colin Frank, a second-round pick and a sixth-round pick, second-round pick in 2026 and a sixth-round pick in 2025. And that's another. So that's some of the other ones that happened here. And then we talked a little bit about Brad Lambert and Chaz Lucius being sent down from Winnipeg. Brad going to the Seattle Thunderbirds. Chaz Lucius to the Portland Winterhawks. So still some significant. The trade deadline not done yet. We still got another 30 minutes as we are recording this. So we'll see what else is happening here. But lots of trades happening today in the WHL. And in the OHL, I think a lot of people were waiting for this to happen. Shane Wright was traded from the Kingston Frontenacs to the Windsor Spitfires. And so that trade finally happened. And here, well, not finally happened. We was expected that Shane Wright was going to be traded if he was sent down. And that did happen. And so we'll looking at that trade and what was involved. It was Shane Wright and a 14th round pick to Windsor. The Spitfires are sending Ethan Medina, a forward, Gavin McCarthy, a defenseman, and 7 draft picks, which includes a 2nd round pick in 2023, a 3rd rounder in 2023, 4th round picks in 2024 and 2025, a conditional 6th round pick in 2024, and 2 conditional picks, which is a 5th rounder in 2024 and a 6th rounder in 2025. Now, one of the things in the OHL is you cannot trade 1st round picks, so that's one of the reasons why a 1st round pick wasn't involved. And then you could also look, and I saw a lot of this comparing, well, Zellweger got more than Shane Wright. Have to remember that another player was involved in that trade with Zellweger, with Hofer going the other way as well. So that makes it a little bit more expensive, obviously. But that's a significant amount to give up. No matter what, that's still, how you look at that, that is a massive haul to get for a guy that is just really there for a playoff run. That's it. I mean, I think Shane Wright, if he has one more year a junior, maybe in him, maybe, but I think there's a good chance that he's going to be playing a little bit more in the National Hockey League, they hope, next year. But so this is a good opportunity. So it's not a super massive trade there, massive busy day in junior hockey. And it looks like if you're check out the WHL on Area 51, they will be doing a WHL trade deadline preview. They're coming up in about 30 minutes or so. Whereas that is what's going on there in terms of that. So we cover that part. It is, as mentioned, a game day for the Canucks and the Penguins. First, we'll go there, start there. And of course, coming into the game, the Canucks are, well, we know what they are. They're scrambling out of a playoff spot as they're sitting at 17, 19, and 3, 8 points behind the Edmonton Oilers for that second wild card spot. We'll touch on some of that. Some interesting stuff happened yesterday. Pittsburgh coming in tonight in the Eastern Conference second wild card spot, 20, 13, and 6 at 46 points. And they are tied with the New York Islanders for that second wildcard spot, as it looks like this year, unlike last year, the Eastern Conference is going to have a playoff battle, which will include the Islanders, possibly the Buffalo Sabres, who did take a loss to the Philadelphia Flyers last night, and the Florida Panthers, who are 6 points back there. So in terms of lineup notes for what's expected tonight, we'll see what happens here in terms of combinations and such, but we expect Spencer Martin to get this call in goal. It looks like Lane Peterson, Riley Stillman, and Kyle Burrows will be the scratches. It looks like Pedersen, Kuzmenko, and Miller will be one line, Horvat, Mikheyev, and Besser. Line two, a line Sheldon Dries, Connor Garland, William Lockwood. Really have liked what William Lockwood has brought to the table. So I do like he's getting looks like he's going to get a little bit more ice time. And then you got Lazar, Dakota Joshua, Jack Studnicka. On defense, Ethan Bear, Quinn Hughes, Tyler Myers, OEL, and Luke Shannon, Travis Dermott. For the Penguins, you've got Sidney Crosby with one of the more underrated players in the National Hockey League, Jake Gensel, and Brian Russ. You've got Genny Malkin with Jason Zucker and Ricard Raquel, Jeff Carter, Danton Hyman, Kasperi Kampanen, and then Teddy Bluger with Drew O'Connor, Brock McGinn, Jan Ruda with Marcus Pedersen, Ty Smith, Brian Doolin, Pierre Oliver Joseph, and Chad Woodwell are the goalies, are the defensemen. Goaltender is Casey DeSmith with Dustin Tokarski being the backup. So Penguins, there we're in action here, and against the Vancouver Canucks. So that will be an interesting interesting test. You know the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know their reputation with Crosby, Malkin, up the middle, deep, and it will be certainly a challenge for the Canucks as they continue to try to figure out what they are, and Pittsburgh battles for a playoff spot. In terms of the Flames tonight, they are in action after a loss to the Chicago Blackhawks in overtime, 4-3. Again, a point. You get a point. One of those, I think, with the worst team in the league, you should have got two. So makes this game a little bit more intense than because of that. And your problem with the Flames right now is that the Seattle Kraken refuse to lose. You have the Nashville Predators. UC Soros has come up played amazingly well, and have come back into this playoff race because of tremendous goaltending. They are 1 point behind the Edmonton Oilers, 2 points behind the Calgary Flames for that second wild card spot, and have won 4 in a row. The Blues have struggled at home, 7-8-2, and the Flames, of course, have it 7-7-6. They're on the road. As Milan Lucic have talked about here, Milan Lucic said that this is the most important road trip of the year. So that makes that interesting here. But no Jacob Pelche in the lineup tonight again. Walker Durow make his his debut tonight for the Flames for season debut. Still waiting on Jacob Pelche. Hope he gets in the lineup. I can understand the Flames fans' frustrations when you get a guy, give a guy an opportunity here. He's a top prospect. You want to see him. It's great he's on the road trip, but you want to get an opportunity to see him. So, and you hopefully do, and we'll see about that here. Lines for the Flames look like Lindholm, Dubé, Toffoli, Kadri, Lucic, and Huberdeau. Backlund, Mangiapane, and Coleman. Ruzicka, Trevor Lewis, Walker, Duer. Ruzicka has struggled a little bit, he hasn't scored since the beginning of December. He had that really hot streak when he was playing with Michael Backlund, and lately not as much. So we'll see what Walker Duer can bring here, but a lot of talk about what Daryl Sutter talked about in terms of the young people not being prepared. Zahorna or Ruzicka -4, 6 minutes of ice time the last game. As much as you can criticize Daryl Sutter saying it, you look at the stats and you see that he has a point. Defensively, Anderson and Hanifin, they need to rebound after a tough game. They were combined -5 against Chicago. Tanev and Uyghur and Stone and Zadorov. Jacob Markstrom, who was pulled after early in the second period when the Flames were down 3-1, gets to start. Vladar, the backup. And it's Mackey, Pelche, Zahorna, Scratch, and Richie, the upper body. For the Blues, it's Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, Jordan Kyrou, Braden Shen, Brandon Saad, Ivan Barbashev, Noel Achari, Calgary native, former Edmonton Oil King Jake Neighbors, who's a guy I think you need to watch. I think he's going to be a guy that's coming. And Nathan Walker, Nikita Alexandrov, Alexei Torpachenko, and Tyler Pickling. We'll get to the injuries in a second. Lots of them in St. Louis. Nico Mikola, Colton Parenko, Justin Folk, Tyler Tucker, Callie Rosen, Steven Santini. Our defense. Some number of injuries on the defense as well. Jordan Bennington will get the call and goal. The injury list includes Ryan O'Reilly, Vladimir Tarasenko, Torrey Krug, Nick Leddy, Robert Bertuzzo, Marco Scandella, Scott Perunovich, Logan Brown. That's a lot of injuries for the St. Louis Blues. Brett Ritchie's the only Flame injured. You have 3, 6, 8 injuries in St. Louis. And then you have former Flame and Josh Levo as a scratch, as well as Dmitry Samarkov as a scratch as well. So really, this is a game that I think the Flames need to take an opportunity to have. This is an injured Blues team. You've got to play better. The Blues, by the way, are only 2 points behind the Edmonton Oilers for that second wildcard spot. So this is, you get these two games here, Tuesday, Thursday, Flames, Blues. Proverbial, really, not 4 point, 8 points here. Potentially the St. Louis Blues could, if they sweep in regulation, could pass Calgary here. So, and Calgary could make a bit of a dent in St. Louis's plans with the sweep there as well. So we'll see what happens. Interesting game, Calgary, St. Louis. Wanted to touch on the games from last night. The Seattle Kraken refused to lose, especially on the road, 13-4-2. 5 wins in a row, and they are rolling right now. They play Buffalo tonight, shut out the Montreal Canadiens last night. The Canadiens got booed. That effort hasn't been great in Montreal. Some frustration starting to build there, but you've got to start to wonder and believe in this Kraken team. They're not going anywhere. People keep thinking that they're fading away, and they're not. They're a much better team, and people forget that there was a lot of injuries last year with Jaden Schwartz, Brandon Hanna injured last year. They acquired a couple of, you got Matty Beniers as an all-star. He's playing in at a Calder Trophy level. You've brought in Burakovsky. You've done some different things. More offensive this year. Kraken are a much better team. Did a poll yesterday. We'll do another poll, back to those daily polls, of which has been a more disappointing team, the Flames or the Oilers. And I think that it's certainly an argument for both. You look at the Flames, and certainly there's an argument to be made that this team, with all these new pieces, it's expected that they were going to start slow. I expected them to start slow. But the Edmonton Oilers also just have fought consistency all year. Another pulled goaltending situation from Stuart Skinner. They can't seem to get their goaltending together. They're not tough enough. The Kings dominated them from pillar to post last night. Yeah, Connor McDavid gets his 34th goal of the year, but certainly have to come in thinking that the Oilers were going to be a little bit better this year. Now they're 21-18-3. It's not a terrible record, but they are definitely in a spot where you wonder if they're going to be in the playoffs next here. So they're in a battle with Nashville, with that battle that we've talked about, Nashville, Colorado, St. Louis. Don't think this team was expected to be in the second wild card after getting into the Western Conference Final. They didn't win the division last year. They were in a position around the same time that they were fighting for a playoff spot, and then they got everything together in the second half of the year. So that could happen again. You had the coaching change with Dave Tippett to Jay Woodcroft. Now people are questioning Jay Woodcroft. Just don't think this Oilers team did enough to address their offseason. They made the investment in Jack Campbell, thinking that goaltending would solve a lot of problems. There's still depth scoring issues. Jesse Pujärvi, he got into a fight, but they're so top heavy. They so rely on McDavid and Draisaitl, and then Nugent Hopkins and Hyman. Their defense hasn't really been good enough here, and their goaltending is inconsistent. It's the same issues with the Oilers, but just with, wonder what the patience level is in Edmonton at this particular point. You can feel the frustration. You talk about JT Miller whacking the back of the net to get Colin Delia out against Winnipeg. I've seen some smash sticks and frustration from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So that's interesting to me as well. In terms of other games tonight in the National Hockey League, we'll go through those. And some interesting games for sure, as there always is. We have we'll start in Buffalo. We did talk about the Kraken already. Let's talk about the Sabres coming off a shutout last night to the Philadelphia Flyers, trying to keep themselves at least in the Eastern Conference playoff battle. Kraken come in 23-12-4. Sabres 20-16-2. Philip Grubauer will get the call and goal for the Kraken, and Buffalo will bring in Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to start for the Sabres. The Minnesota Wild will play the New York Rangers. Ryan Reeves returns to New York after that trade. 22-14-3 of the Minnesota Wild, 22-12-7 of the New York Rangers. That should be an interesting game with Marc-Andre Fleury back to starting and Igor Shesterkin starting for the Rangers. Game of the night is in Carolina. New Jersey Devils 25-12-3. Carolina Hurricanes 25-8-7. They are separated in the Metropolitan Division here by they're the top two teams, and the Devils are 4 points behind them. So another preferable 4-point game. And Jack Hughes becoming a superstar. Vitek Vanacek getting the start for the Devils. And you've got Peter Kochetev, starting for the Hurricanes. And the Blue Jackets taking on the Lightning. Elvis Merzlikins gets the start in goal for the Blue Jackets as they have a number of injuries here, and the Lightning will go with Andrei Vasilevsky. Winnipeg Jets 26-13-1 taking on the Detroit Red Wings 16-15-7. Connor Hellebuck back in goal for Winnipeg after David Riddick started against Vancouver, and you've got Ville Husso starting for the Detroit Red Wings. Dallas Stars taking on the New York Islanders with Jake Ottinger starting in goal for the 24-11-6 Stars. Islanders will start with a 22-17-2. We'll start Ilya Sorokin. And as well, the Sharks and the Coyotes and the Connor Bedard Bowl, or get the first pick bowl. Kaapo Kähkönen starting for the 12-21-8 Sharks. Coyotes 13-21-5 start Carl Vamonka. And the Florida Panthers take on the Colorado Avalanche. And they've got Sergei Bobrovsky starting in goal for the Panthers. They are 18-19-4. Avalanche 20-15-3. And Alexander Georgiev gets the call in goal for the Avalanche. Jim Rutherford, let's talk about him. He did an interview in Pittsburgh today and talking about his tenure in Pittsburgh. But did do the tenure. It was yesterday that he did the interview. Of course, he's not in Pittsburgh. He's of course be involved in scouting meetings with the Vancouver Canucks. He said he did enjoy his time there. He has some very strong friendships with the coaches and the players. And of course, he left 2 years ago as well. Talked about the immense expectations of the Canadian market. He says, Vancouver, we have a CFL football team. We don't have an NFL or Major League team like you do in Pittsburgh, but a big thing here, and I totally understand it, is the frustration of having a franchise for as long as they have, getting to the finals a few times, but not winning the cup. And of course, even worse than that, a number of years without being a playoff team. Says there's a lot of frustration, and I understand it. We have a wonderful fan base. They understand the game. I like being in the Canadian market. I was born and raised in the Canadian market. Quite frankly, I like being in this market. And as well, he did expect it to be a challenge. He said it's probably been a bigger challenge than he expected, trying to unravel that cap situation. And of course, the sooner you can do that, you can move and improve the team. He talked about Patrick Allvin, really good at what he does, has a lot of respect for him. Roles are different. He says Allvin does the day-to-day stuff, and Rutherford steps back, and it's an adjustment for him. But he says that their working relationship is really good. They've built a very strong hockey operations department. Just have to work hard. We'll never get as good as we should be, as everybody wants. But I think as soon as everybody wants, but the opportunity is there. As far as his observations of the Penguins, his former team, he's watching his games every night. He doesn't have a lot to say about the Penguins, other than the fact that every team in the league, other than a couple being one has their ups and downs, except the Boston Bruins. And he thinks the Penguins will be a good team and they will be okay. And he doesn't want to comment on the job that Penguins management has done. Does wish it would have been better. His time ended better, but it didn't. Uh, he, as far as his future, I thought it was going to retire 10 years ago, and I didn't. I would think I would probably retire in the next 10 years. At this point in my life, the stress is harder to handle, but I'm not doing the day-to-day general manager stuff, so that should relieve some of the stress. But we have our challenges here, and I feel a big responsibility to try to make the Canucks better. I still will deal with the stress. If at some point the stress gets too hard to handle, that will probably be where I'll be retired somewhere. So that's what Rutherford has had to say in Pittsburgh. Probably nothing there out of the ordinary or anything, but just talking about the market and what's going on here. And I don't think he said anything out of turn. I think sounds like a really basic interview from Jim Rutherford, not saying anything different than what he said in the Vancouver media, in my mind. But if you see something different, let us know. Let's turn our attention to the AHL before we wrap this up. We will have a podcast on after Flames Canucks. Flames play on Flames play the Blues, and then the Canucks in action as well on Thursday. So we'll have a post-game podcast discussing the Flames and the Canucks. In terms of games tonight in the AHL, we've got a few things going on here on the old AHL action. Here. Oh, one moment. Sorry. Waiting for the schedule here tonight. And here, sorry about that. There we go. Tonight, Hartford plays Coachella Valley, and we've got, so let's go through this here. Sorry about that little bit of a technical. Hartford taking on Charlotte, Milwaukee taking on Tucson, Bakersfield taking on the Calgary Wranglers, and so let's touch on the Wranglers here in terms of their schedule or their standing here. As they come off that win against Bakersfield, they're second in the Pacific behind Coachella Valley, 1 point behind, 23-8-1. Dustin Wolf continues to shine as they've won 2 in a row. Dustin Wolf continues to shine, though, in the Wranglers net. San Jose taking on Coachella Valley, Las Vegas taking on Bridgeport, Hartford taking, that's tomorrow. So tonight, pardon me. So for tonight, Hartford taking on Charlotte, Milwaukee, Tucson, San Jose, Coachella Valley, Wranglers taking on Bakersfield. And in terms of next Abbotsford Canuck action, that is doesn't look like they have some. Looks like Abbotsford has some time off. They're 3 points, by the way, behind the Calgary Wranglers for second in the Pacific Division. But so in terms of the Abbotsford schedule, they have. When do they play next year? As I pull that up, this is good radio. Sorry about that. We're waiting there. Looks like they don't play until much later this week. Looks like they have today off, tomorrow off, as well as Thursday off. Sorry, technical issue here. And but the Abbotsford Canucks don't play tonight, or do they play tomorrow? They will play later this week. I'll have that for you tomorrow. My apologies. The schedule is not coming up for me for some reason or another. And maybe I'll try one more here. There we go. Schedule for the Canucks. There we go. Sorry about that. Just had to wait in there. Their next action is actually on that's 21-22. Let's get to this season here. We've got they played last Saturday 2-1 over Henderson. They played next Saturday 2 games in a row in San Jose, Saturday night and Sunday. Apologies for the technical issues there, but we'll leave it there. You can follow us all individually on Twitter: Sean Beardy Canucks 03, Tyler TNOBLE, Christian Schneids SCHNEIDZ, Tyler. We talked about Devin Gordhow 09. Hopefully we can get everyone together here really soon. I am KEVOLE, Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. Thank you for watching or listening, and we will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.